The free market economists understand the business cycle, predicted the breakdown of Bretton Woods in 1971, predicted all the events since 1971, the destruction of the dollar. We've lost 97% of our dollar's value to gold since 1971, and we're rapidly moving into an inflationary stage. We're not over the financial bubble and the financial problem we have. It just started. What I believe will happen, I hope I'm absolutely wrong on this, but as time goes on, we are going to work our way into a situation that is going to combine the vicious downturn of the 1930s with the vicious upturn of prices and inflation of the 1970s. That will be very devastating, and that will indeed be a threat to all our liberties and institutions. Medicare and Medicaid are bankrupt. You can't save Medicare and Medicaid by creating another $1 trillion medical program. In the 1930s, they had a Pecora Commission, a similar commission. They came up with the conclusion, oh, the problem was they followed the gold standard, which they did not, and they also didn't have enough regulations, which we already then had too many. So what did they do in the 30s? They got rid of the gold standard and piled on. That's when they introduced these SEC and all the other programs and prolonged the Depression. That's exactly what we're doing. The conclusion of all this looks like it's going to be a lot more regulations. I'm for regulations, but the number one regulation is to regulate the Federal Reserve System is what we need to regulate. The beginning of the Tea Party movement came not too long ago, a year or two ago, when it was during the financial crisis and they knew about the TARP funds. The TARP funds were appropriated by Republicans and Democrats. The money was wasted, bailed out friends and hurt the enemies, the whole works, and nobody knew where the money was going, and this upset a lot of people, rightfully so. But then, when they found out that the Federal Reserve created $2 trillion out of thin air and passed it out to their friends, it got the attention of a lot of Americans. The Federal Reserve is more powerful than our president. It's a world currency. It can loan money to other central banks, other governments, international financial institutions. Creating money out of thin air and making deals like that, it can be involved in foreign policy and who knows what. But I'll tell you what they can't control. They can tide things over and think they're improving things and get some GDP numbers to come up. But they cannot protect the value of the dollar. That is what you need to watch, and that will be a consequence of excessive government. That is what destroys nations. That's what destroys republics. And it is indeed up to us as the party right now of limited government and preaches limited government. But you can't be for limited government halfway and reject on the other way. The whole way has to be limited government. That's the only way we can regain our credibility, and that is what's necessary. What we do as a party will not suffice, and what we do as a party now and between November will make the difference. They have to believe that we believe in what we're saying. Yes, we can say it, but are we going to do it? That is why we have people drifting outside the party, and if you want the people back in, and if you want the young people of this country, you better look at these viewpoints. About 100 years ago or so, freedom was divided into two pieces, economic liberty and personal liberty. For no good reasons. The founders didn't believe that. Personal civil liberties was the same as economic liberties. If you believe in civil liberties for personal choices, you ought to believe in economic choices as well. We need to put that back together. It makes sense. It makes sense to the young people that I talk to. Let me tell you, there's a revolution on the college campuses right now. And they're not looking looking for handouts. They are looking for their freedom so they can get a job and take care of themselves. The ultimate goal of all our political action should be to strive for liberty. That is what I'm dedicated to. I've been doing it for a lot of years. And there's a lot more interest right now, mainly because the country is in trouble. But our goal should be for seeking liberty. Now, why do we seek liberty? Well, the purpose of a free society is for we as individuals to be responsible for ourselves, to take care of ourselves financially, and take care of our families. But it's also there to seek excellence and virtue. That should be the ultimate goal of what we are as individuals. And if you have an authoritarian government, for whatever reason, if you only pick off a little bit of it and somebody else picks off a little bit, pretty soon it's a total authoritarian government. And that is what we're approaching. We don't have our privacy. We have intrusion on government in everything that we do. And if we allow the government to take over this role, which should be personal, if we allow the government to promote economic equality, which the liberal do-gooders want. Oh, yes, injustices, we got to take care of it, and we'll do it, and this is going to make the economy better, and it'll be fair and equal to everybody. Well, we know, everybody in this audience knows, socialism fails. It might make them equal, but they're going to all be equally poor. But the same argument can be made for those who will say, I am going to make you a better person by writing a whole lot of rules, and the only person you've endangered with by making mistakes is yourself. Governments can't do that. Governments can't protect you from yourself, and that's what we're trying to do. And I would say, give up on it. Why don't we look to the rules and regulations that we have been given? They've been written down. It was the best document ever written. It's just too bad we don't ever follow it. I have a lot of young people come to my office, and I'm delighted to see them because quite frequently the young people, it's not just the college students, it's high school students come in, and they've gotten wind of the freedom philosophy. But you know what I love? Is they come in and the parents readily admit it. They said, and I'll ask them, I said, well, who discovered the freedom philosophy first? It's usually the 16 or the 17-year-old. And the parents then, they've made the parents listen to it, so that really pleases me. But also, when the young people come, I have a bit of a habit of passing out constitutions. And, you know, the Constitution is pretty thin. There's not a whole lot of words in there, and everybody in this room can read it. But I couldn't understand a lot of it was in a 2,000-page medical document. It only took one page for me to discover I didn't like it. But the Constitution is understandable. It's so great. The tragedy is that we don't follow it. But I hand the copy to the youngsters, and I say to you, I said, I know you'll read this, and I hope you do, because you're going to get a chance. A crisis is coming, and you're going to make a decision. Your generation will make a decision what the role of government ought to be. Should the role of government be there to protect your liberty, or should the role of government be there to run the economy, run your life, and police the world? And I said, the reason I give it to you is I haven't been able to get anybody around this place to read it. Now, I know a lot of people in here do a lot of thinking for themselves, but H.L. Mencken said the most dangerous man to government, and we are complaining about our government too big, is the man who thinks things out for himself or herself. And that is what really counts, and that's why a free society is so important, that you have this privilege and the access to the material. In the 50s, when I got interested in studying the freedom philosophy, I couldn't find the literature. It wasn't in my schools, it wasn't on the TV, it wasn't on the radio, it wasn't with the politicians. But if you could find some books, you could find Hayek and Mises and Rothbard and Austrian Economics and Foundation for Economic Education. But the miracle for the freedom movement is the internet. The internet, the information is spread. They'll never put this back in the jar. You can't do it. It's out. The people know about it. This movement, the movement is demanding liberty and limited government, is growing by leaps and bounds. And let's hope and pray it changes this country, because right now we're in deep need of change. I thank you very much for this opportunity to visit with you today.